Have you ever stopped to think about the incredible journey your morning coffee has taken? Before it reaches your cup, that simple brew has traveled across oceans and continents, a silent testament to a vast and complex global network. This network, known as the global supply chain, is the invisible engine of our modern world. It connects farmers, manufacturers, and logistics experts from countless countries, all working together to bring you the products you use every single day. From the smartphone in your pocket to the clothes you wear, almost everything is a product of this intricate dance of international cooperation. The beauty of this system lies in its efficiency. For years, the world operated like a finely tuned machine, with each country playing a specific role based on its strengths. A company might design a product in the United States, source its raw materials from Brazil and Australia, assemble it in China, using components from South Korea and Taiwan, and then ship the final product to customers all over Europe and North America. This model allowed businesses to produce goods at a lower cost, which made products more affordable for consumers everywhere. It fostered economic growth, lifted millions out of poverty, and created a deeply interconnected global economy. Consider the journey of a simple t-shirt. The cotton might be grown in India, harvested, and then shipped to a textile mill in Vietnam. There it is spun into thread and woven into fabric. This fabric is then sent to a factory in Bangladesh, where workers cut and sew it into the final garment. The finished t-shirts are packed and loaded onto massive container ships, which cross the Pacific Ocean to ports in California. From there, they are transported by trucks and trains to distribution centers, and finally delivered to the retail store where you make your purchase. Each step involves a different country, a different set of workers, and a different piece of the global puzzle. This interconnectedness is the bedrock of our globalized life. It has given us access to an unprecedented variety of goods and services at prices that would have been unimaginable a few generations ago. The system works because of shared rules, reliable shipping lanes, and relatively open borders. It assumes that containers can move from one side of the world to the other with minimal friction. For a long time, this assumption held true, allowing supply chains to stretch farther and become more specialized. But what happens when the political ground beneath this intricate web begins to shift, and the reliable pathways we depend on are suddenly thrown into question? The smooth operation of global supply chains depends heavily on stable political relationships between countries. When these relationships sour, the entire system can face significant disruption. Geopolitical tensions such as trade wars and protectionist policies act like roadblocks on the global trade highway. Suddenly, governments may impose tariffs, which are essentially taxes on imported goods, making them more expensive for businesses and consumers. These actions are often designed to protect domestic industries from foreign competition, but they can trigger a chain reaction. For example, when one country places tariffs on another, the second country often retaliates with its own tariffs, leading to a costly trade war that hurts both economies. We have seen this play out in recent years with damaging effects. The trade disputes between the United States and China, for instance, had a profound impact on numerous industries. American companies that relied on Chinese factories to manufacture everything from electronics to furniture suddenly found their costs rising dramatically due to new tariffs. This forced them to make difficult choices, either absorb the extra cost and reduce their profits, or pass the cost on to consumers by raising prices. Consumers, in turn, felt the pinch in their wallets. The flow of goods slowed down, creating uncertainty for businesses trying to plan for the future and disrupting the delicate balance that had defined global trade for decades. Political decisions can also create non-tariff barriers that are just as disruptive. A country might implement new regulations or quality standards that are difficult for foreign companies to meet, effectively blocking their products from the market. In other cases, geopolitical conflicts can lead to sanctions, where countries agree to restrict trade with a particular nation as a form of political pressure. These measures can sever critical links in a supply chain overnight. A factory in Europe might find it can no longer source a vital component from a sanctioned country, forcing it to halt production entirely until it can find an alternative supplier, a process that can take months or even years. The result of this political friction is a world that feels less predictable and more fragmented. The long, complex supply chains that were once celebrated for their efficiency are now seen as a source of vulnerability. A political disagreement in one part of the world can lead to empty shelves in another. A sudden policy change can delay the arrival of critical medical supplies or essential electronic components. Businesses and governments are now realizing that the pursuit of pure cost efficiency has come at a price: a lack of resilience. The global factory is being forced to adapt to a new reality where political risk is a major factor in every business decision. In response to growing geopolitical uncertainty and the painful lessons learned from recent disruptions, many companies are fundamentally rethinking their supply chain strategies. The old model of chasing the lowest possible labor cost, no matter how far away, is being replaced by a new focus on resilience and reliability. This has led to a significant trend known as reshoring or nearshoring. Reshoring involves moving manufacturing operations from a foreign country back to the company's home country. Nearshoring, a related concept, involves moving production to a country that is geographically closer and politically more stable, such as a United States company moving its factory from China to Mexico. This strategic shift is driven by a desire to shorten supply chains and reduce dependence on distant or politically volatile regions. A shorter supply chain means goods can be transported faster and more reliably. It also makes it easier for companies to monitor production quality and respond quickly to changes in customer demand. By manufacturing in a neighboring country, for example, a business can avoid the long ocean voyages and potential port backlogs that have plagued global trade. This move is seen as a way to build a more robust system that is less susceptible to a single point of failure, whether it is a pandemic, a natural disaster, or a sudden geopolitical crisis. However, this great recalibration is not without its challenges. For decades, entire ecosystems of suppliers and skilled labor have been built up in countries like China. Recreating this complex network in a new location is an enormous and costly undertaking. Companies may struggle to find workers with the necessary skills or a sufficient number of local suppliers who can provide high-quality components at a competitive price. As a result, moving production often leads to higher operating costs. These increased expenses may ultimately be passed on to consumers, leading to higher prices for goods that were once much cheaper to produce overseas. Furthermore, building new factories and training a new workforce takes a significant amount of time and investment. It is not a switch that can be flipped overnight. Businesses must weigh the long-term benefits of increased resilience against the short-term costs and complexities of relocating their operations. Some companies are adopting a China Plus One strategy, where they maintain some production in China while also establishing a second manufacturing base in another country, like Vietnam, India, or Mexico. This approach allows them to diversify their risk without completely abandoning the efficiencies of their existing supply chains, creating a hybrid model for a more uncertain world. As businesses navigate this complex new landscape, they are increasingly turning to technology to build smarter, more resilient supply chains. Innovations like artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things are revolutionizing logistics and risk management. Artificial intelligence algorithms can analyze vast amounts of data to predict potential disruptions, such as a port strike or extreme weather event, allowing companies to reroute shipments proactively. Internet of Things sensors placed on containers and in warehouses provide real-time tracking and monitoring, offering unprecedented visibility into where goods are at any given moment. This level of insight helps businesses manage their inventory more efficiently and respond to problems before they escalate. Another transformative technology is blockchain, the secure, decentralized ledger system that powers cryptocurrencies. In supply chains, blockchain can create a transparent and unchangeable record of a product's journey from origin to consumer. Each transaction, from the sourcing of raw materials to the final delivery, is recorded as a block on the chain. This enhances traceability, helps verify the authenticity of goods, and combats counterfeiting. It also streamlines administrative processes by creating a single, shared source of truth for all parties involved, from the farmer to the retailer, reducing paperwork and the potential for errors or fraud. Alongside these technological advancements, there is a growing demand for supply chains to be more sustainable and ethical. Consumers and investors alike are pressuring companies to ensure their products are made in an environmentally responsible manner and with respect for workers' rights. This involves scrutinizing every step of the supply chain to reduce carbon emissions, minimize waste, and ensure fair labor practices. Building a sustainable supply chain is not just about public relations. It is also about long-term resilience. Companies that rely on sustainable resources and treat their workers well are often better equipped to weather economic and environmental shocks. Ultimately, the world of global trade is undergoing a profound transformation. The era of hyper-globalization, defined by ever-expanding and complex supply chains, is giving way to a more fragmented and regionalized system. New economic powers are emerging, shifting the balance of trade and creating new alliances and trade blocs. The future will belong to those who can build supply chains that are not only efficient but also resilient, transparent, and sustainable. For all of us, understanding these powerful forces is more important than ever, as they directly shape the cost, availability, and nature of the products that define our daily lives.